Hello everybody. Today I'm going to discuss and look at Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. And the reason I'm looking into it is because my wife got diagnosed with it recently. She had to do a hip operation and we went to a specialist, and the specialist told her, you probably have Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome and hypermobility and not fibromyalgia. We were very curious, so I looked into it. But since I'm not a doctor and I can't explain it thoroughly, here you go. This is what I found out online.
Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome is a term used to describe a group of inherited collagen disorders. These individuals can have problems with their joints, their skin, and in some cases the vasculature.
Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, or EDS, is a connective tissue disease that affects about 1 in 5,000 people. It is the most common group of disorders in the family of hereditable disorders of connective tissues. Multiple symptoms are present in EDS since it is a disease of connective tissue which is found in virtually every organ system. Excessive joint mobility is the hallmark of the disease. The name of the syndrome comes from the names of a Danish dermatologist, Edward Ehlers, and a French dermatologist, Henri Danlos, who described it in first decade of 20th century. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is caused due to a mutation in one of more than a dozen different genes. The affected gene determines a specific type of the syndrome.
Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is actually a group of disorders. These are hereditary disorders of connective tissue that involve many, many different organs in the body. The cardinal feature is the joint laxity. They also have involvement of the skin. Skin can be very soft, fragile, bruise very easily. Often the skin is translucent and we can see through it.
Some of the signs and symptoms of EDS include stretchy skin, skin fragility where wounds won't heal very well. They may open up after they've healed, scars that widen over time and are very thin, as well as easy bruising and easy bleeding. Other signs include a joint hypermobility, so loose joints, double jointedness, and vision problems, GI problems, as well as crowded teeth and unknown or unexplained bleeding.
Some forms of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome relate to problems with collagen production and composition, though the particular issue varies. Body's many connective tissues, including cartilage, tendons, fat, and bones, may falter and fail when collagen and its enzymes are disrupted. The pathological changes mainly involve joints, skin, and the walls of the blood vessels. In total, there are 13 different types of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, the most common of which are classical EDS and hypermobility EDS.
Let's say the diagnosis for many of the forms of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is based off the clinical exam, and from your clinical exam you will determine if subsequent genetic testing is actually needed. Well, for some of the subtypes, classic, there is some genetic testing. Vascular form, there's genetic testing. In some of the more rare forms, there is. The hypermobility form, there is one gene that's very rare that does have genetic testing, but even if that was to be positive, that wouldn't change our management. So in many cases, I would say almost all the cases for hypermobility form, we don't do genetic testing.
Apart from the pain control, management of fatigue, clumsiness, dystonia, and impaired proprioception are essential. Patients with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome are famously intolerant of a wide range of medications, so caution must be practiced. Clinical features are shared between many subtypes, making accurate diagnosis a challenging ordeal.
Common one is the joint hypermobility form, where people have essentially very loose joints and no skin fragility. Their skin may be soft, it may be somewhat stretchy, but it doesn't have problems with wound healing per se. It doesn't really have problems with wound dehiscence or opening up of the wounds after they've healed. But pain in these individuals is usually the most difficult thing to manage.
Physical therapy can be very helpful in the management of long-term health. Patients are instructed to avoid excessive or repetitive activities that produce undue strain or stress on their hypermobile joints.
Subtypes are even the classic as well as and the hypermobility form may need orthopedic intervention if they have severe scoliosis.
That makes a lot of sense, and it's really eye-opening because after my wife's operation on her hip, they gave her a bunch of different stuff to kill the pain, and it wouldn't work. She was out of her mind in pain and had a really bad recovery, and went through a bunch of different drugs and tried out different things. And some worked, some didn't. It was really hard to pinpoint and navigate through it, but thank God she finally healed. And, you know, it's still actually recovering from it because it takes a while for a hip operation, but her case, it can take a lot longer than the average person.
I experience it, so you're constantly in pain. You go to bed, you're in pain. While sleeping, you're in pain. When you wake up, your muscles are tight and your joints are sore. So you need a lot of time to stretch and to get yourself going.
The time when we really started considering autoimmune diseases because I was having stomach problems and joint problems and things were swelling. So we were looking at like rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, and Crohn's disease.
Headaches, never ever slept. I mean, I'd go days, sometimes as long as a week, literally with no sleep. Didn't eat much because I was always nauseous and not feeling well.
I had gone to a functional medicine doctor to get prolotherapy for this shoulder because I hoped maybe that would help with some of the shoulder pain I was having. When I was there, he mentioned the possibility of a connective tissue disorder. Now at the time, he didn't diagnose me, he didn't give me a full examination because we were just there to get the prolotherapy and that was it. But since then, I have looked into Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, and when I first looked it up, it was basically my entire life. Like check, 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 my entire life. All the things that I've dealt with my entire life were explained by Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome.
First, it came out the diagnosis. Let's test you for lupus and MS or Crohn's disease. And after so many diagnoses without a final conclusion, I was told to see a fibromyalgia specialist, and I did, and the treatment was, given to me apart from therapy, it was opioids, and opioids obviously it didn't do me any good. Oh yeah, the opioids were Percocet and Tylenol 2 or 3 with codeine, OxyContin, oxycodone, and methadone. When that didn't help, methadone was the extreme, and after that I said enough, it's enough.
I'd also get headaches every single day, like tension headaches, and I get vision issues. So towards the end of the day, my vision would start to get worse and worse and worse to the point where, like if somebody 10 feet in front of me would be just very blurry.
And I always had really, really bad pains in my upper and mid back and often in my neck, and they just really got worse and worse until about age 21, it became really, truly disabling, and it turned out that it just progressively got worse and worse.
Yes, 2 years it took me to be free of all the prescription that I was once prescribed, and it takes time also, and finding a new routine and find what works and what doesn't work. And I also been through a hormone, being submitted to hormone treatment in shots in order to change the biology of my bodies. Therefore, it would change the receptions of pain. I don't know. There are so many things that I've tried, and some of the things worked for a while, and but not having a diagnosis, it was the most agonizing part of all.
I also had severe brain fog, which was a huge issue for me then, and pretty bad anxiety. So what would happen was everything just felt super foggy to the point where I sometimes would forget certain chunks of time from every single day or night. Well, not every single day, but a lot of days. And somebody would be like, "Do you remember when you did that?" And I'm like, kind of, it sounds familiar, but I can't remember it. And it's not like these were things that I shouldn't remember.
We looked into the book that the specialist actually suggested to us, and when my wife read it, she said it was, basically her whole life.
Is one of my most painful spots. It can hurt when I'm doing absolutely nothing, but typically what sets it off is lying down, chewing. Looking it up and down, it is a lot of pain spots, and to somebody who does not have EDS or another painful condition, it can be pretty shocking to understand that I'm constantly in pain, and that all of these different areas can hurt, especially when they aren't really injured per se. But that's just the nature of Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome and chronic pain and chronic illness.
The possibility of EDS is generally acknowledged in a patient only after joint hypermobility is recognized. Only a handful of clinicians have the awareness or understanding of the multisystem nature of EDS.
A lot more people have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome than is known, and it often goes undiagnosed or misdiagnosed, like it was for me my whole life, because the modern medical industry likes to chop the body up into little pieces. They don't look at the body as a whole. And they'll say, well, you have a GI issue, so let's send you to a gastroenterologist. Well, you have a cardiac issue, so let's send you to a cardiologist. Well, you have some bones and muscle problems, let's send you to an orthopedist. But they don't look at the whole body, and they don't ask, why is she having all of these different issues? Why is this 17-year-old girl having these issues? Why is this otherwise, healthy, vibrant 20-year-old having a hip replacement? Why are all these things going on? And there's a saying in the EDS community that if you can't connect the issues, think connective tissue. So it's a catchy way of remembering, and hopefully more doctors will become aware of EDS, and when they have patients that come in that seem to have all of these different unrelated problems, they will think maybe it is a connective tissue disorder because it affects virtually every system in your body.
People often ask what the hardest part about living with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is, and I think apart from all of the symptoms that you have to deal with daily, the hardest part is having people not believe you.
The hardest part of having this chronic condition is that finding doctors who believe you and tell people that you are in pain, and having people not believing you.
Some people said that I was making things up, that I needed to see a psychologist. Nobody even tried. Nobody would believe me, look at me, couldn't see anything wrong with me. Just, I'm telling you that I hurt. Until we had spent many, many months, myself and my family, trying to find help, that we finally ended up at a rheumatologist who diagnosed me with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome.
When I was 1 through 6, the only symptoms that I had were that handwriting really hurt my hand, thumb, wrist, and forearm. And my doctors told me it was just because I had weak muscles and that I needed to strengthen them. But no matter what I did, it still hurt. And it still hurts today.
Look physically healthy, and you don't fit the typical idea of what a disabled person looks like, people assume you're healthy. And when you try to tell them otherwise, and not just regular people on the street, but medical professionals, they don't believe you. You have to fight, you have to advocate for yourself, you have to try to convince them of the pain that you're in.
It puts you in a very vulnerable place, and frustrations. You get a lot of frustration because these are the community that you are supposed to rely on and are there to help you. When doctors don't believe that you genuinely are telling that you feel pain, it's very disheartening.
I only became aware of it not being a accepted thing across the entire medical community because of watching my wife deal with physiotherapists and doctors. And she had a physiotherapist that basically told her that she was making a bigger deal than need be, and this is all in her mind. And it's just amazing that these people aren't believed when their body doesn't produce collagen. It affects a lot of systems in your body.
I do hope and believe that with more awareness, the disbelief surrounding people with invisible illnesses will change, but change starts with us.
Finding the best way to cope with your chronic pain. You trying to find the best therapy, whatever works for you, nutrition wise, because we all have digestion problems, and you're trying to combine a routine that it's suitable for your lifestyle, and you find a team of doctors that can work with you doing alternative therapy and also medicating, but you have to find what works best for you.
The surgeon told me that Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome doesn't cause pain? When I looked it up online, it's 85% of people who have Ehlers-Danlos that do have pain. Continually, every day. It's a constant thing, and it's constantly misdiagnosed as fibromyalgia.
7 years of hell to figure it out, but I'm doing better than I ever thought possible. Hi, my name is Trevor Weiberg. I'm a patient of Dr. Claire Francomanos at Greater Baltimore Medical Center and Harvey Institute of Human Genetics, and I suffer from Ehlers-Danlos Hypermobility Syndrome.
And stay positive. Hold on to the positive moments in your life because you will need that. And try to focus on the positive aspects of your journey having this syndrome.
I hope this video stops people from having to wait as long as my wife did for a proper diagnosis, because it is a real life debilitating disease, and once you know what it is, you can take measures to actually make life survivable and livable. And, you know, like my wife said, don't be negative. Try to be positive. Try to keep the good energy around what you're doing, and just keep looking. Okay? So thank you very much for joining me, and till next time, take care.
And one last note, I'd like to say thank you to my husband and show my gratitude for the making of this video. And also thank to all the people that appears in this video sharing their stories. Remember, if you can connect the issues, think of connective tissue. Connective tissue. Thank you. I'll see you next time.